Thanks so much, Zoe. Yep, this is last but not least, the Dallas Fuel versus the Vancouver Titans. Now, if you would ask me to pred this at the start of the season, it would be quite easy. But we're talking about a tale of two teams who have rediscovered their confidence and are taking charge of their fate. Dallas Fuel are now leaning on Fearless's Hammond, whilst Vancouver more following along with Mirror's dives on the Doomfist, which has been a boon for them.
Yeah, it's been a story of tanking evolution for both of these teams, and we've seen Mirror come into the fold for the Vancouver Titans alongside a new head coach as well in Deepay. Of course, famously of the LA Gladiators for so many years, now has been picked up mid-season, replacing Flubby and Pew from the Vancouver Titans. And it feels like with Mirror in, it's a different beast when we look at the Vancouver Titans. They can finally control some engagements. They have an audacious and aggressive tank who's not afraid to really make these fights happen. And when you interview players, Lemon, they always talk about playing your own game. And that's exactly what happens when you have an aggressive tank who can design an engagement, which is why I'm so confused as we look at our starting lineup here of the Vancouver Titans, because we're actually going to be starting off with False, who is by no means a poor tank, but it seems like False's more passive style has been not ideal for the Vancouver Titans thus far. The Sigma is, of course, looking pretty good in the current meta. A lot of teams are leaning into this Sigma, allowing them to have a little bit more space for these more pokey backlines and more bursty DPS like the Sojourn to have the space to operate, but it feels like False's success record thus far is somewhat lackluster.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I just have so many questions on why False has such a more passive playstyle as being the signature Sigma player for the Vancouver Titans. And to answer your question of just why he's here in the first place, we do have double push, so we're starting off on Coliseo, which is prone to having your Sigma duels happen there, so False coming in, while Mirror is mostly only specializing in the Doomfist. False, though, he plays so passive compared to, your Hawks when it comes to Sigma and other more aggressive tanks, and I'm wondering, is this False playing scared? Is this False still having an off-tank mindset from Overwatch 1, being a rookie, not wanting to make the mistakes and be the pitfall for his team? Or is there more to it? Can we put more of a microscope on what False's decisions are? Does he have a healthy shield? What is his Matrix cooldown at? Are his DPS just not able to make anything happen for False to just stand there and exist for no reason? And I think that's why Vancouver looks so much better with Mirror in it, is that now you add an additional win condition, something else to kind of start these fights off, with Mirror's Doomfist also being amazing at getting first bloods. So False is existing, but gets bullied quite easily. So I'm a little bit worried for this matchup.
Yeah, False going to be existing under a microscope from us, but also from Dallas Fuel. I mean, they're going to be keeping good track of that Sigma's cooldowns as well as the shield health to try and potentially make some more of his dives work. We are 3 matches deep in the Midseason Madness for Dallas Fuel, who came second at Kickoff Clash. At their LAN, they performed incredibly well until that final battle, where they got 4-0'd by the LA Gladiators, and it felt like we had a little bit of the Dallas Fuel tailspin. They couldn't quite find a good identity, or at least a successful identity, in our Mid-Season Madness. But in their most recent iteration against the Florida Mayhem, after a longer weekend of planning and allowing themselves to have a little bit of a tactical rejiggering and figuring out what was going to work, Fearless on the Wrecking Ball seems to be a good key to success for Dallas Fuel, as well as allowing for Gurio to really excel on the Sojourn by following up the dives of Sparkle's very, very high damage Tracer and Fearless, who work in tandem so well after 2 successful seasons together.
And that's why I think this match is much more interesting than a lot of people are trying to predict, because it's two teams reinventing their identity. Dallas Fuel at the start of the qualifiers weren't playing Sojourn and were incorporating so much Hanbin because of his success from the Zarya Reaper meta. Then they realized, okay, Hanbin Sigma was getting bullied by teams like Atlanta. They were getting crushed and held on Midtown. It was not close. They tried to go for Hanbin Doomfist, which is not usually in his wheelhouse, so that didn't work out until they finally realized, what are we going to do with Fearless? Well, let's make them play main tanks. Then you go up against Florida, where they played the Hammond. It synergized so well with Sparkle's Tracer, and now the Gurio actually has space to operate with, and maybe even setups of like a pile drive or something like that. Gurio is going to look a lot better statistically. So I'm excited to see the trajectory of the Dallas Fuel now that they've really found a composition that works to their strengths of the players on their roster.
Yeah, there is the question of what are we going to do with Fearless, but there's also the question of where are we going to go with Fearless. Have a quick look at our map set to see what our first map is going to be. Coliseum, Lemon, is an interesting one. New Queen Street was where Vancouver Titans looked to their absolute best. Previously, being able to absolutely trounce the Atlanta Reign there with a very quick composition of a Doomfist, a Tracer, and a Sombra, which allowed for Mirror to get a huge amount of support, and Aztec could actually shine in the Zenyatta role as a high damage flex support. Coliseum, a little bit different. Here, maybe Fearless might feel a little bit less inclined to go for the Wrecking Ball when you're making these longer approaches down this long hallway where you're catching so much poke and don't have as much opportunity to make a clean engagement.
And the Sojourn matchup is really important in this meta. If we end up with a Sigma Mirror, it's going to be depending on the picks that the Sojourn can accomplish, because the Tracers are only going to be able to be comfortable in that backline if there's a distraction at the front. So I was expecting a Gorilla and Shockwave Sojourn, where statistically Gorilla is outperforming 10 final blows per 10 versus the 7 of Shockwave, and a little bit more depth, 7 deaths per 10 for Shockwave versus the 6 of Gorilla, which makes a difference at the end of the day. But I'm surprised that Shockwave just immediately out the gates wants the Ashe. And we've seen some criticism about the Ashe, and people think it's such an anti-dive hero, but it also has a good tool of throwing dynamites above shields. But they're not seeing a fearless Sigma, they're seeing a fearless Winston, which we were worried about.
The Winston here, we know that Fearless is particularly good at this hero. Some would say it's his signature after last season's double bubble shenanigans. However, what this does do is it will at least provide some good cover for Gorilla to have an extended poke fight, because it's going to take a while for Shockwave to actually break down that shield if he's going to be the one faced with it.
Yeah, I was worried about the Winston for this long corridor because it's so narrow, and Fearless might not have any places to hide, but Shockwave maybe should have hid because Gorilla locks with a headshot. And with that pick, Dallas Fuel gets so aggressive. But that's why Winston falls in the meta currently. There's so much burst. There's an immortality that just buys so much time for the defense that is getting dove upon. So Fearless has to be careful of that burst, and Muse learned that the hard way from the Toronto Defiant. So Fearless goes back to the Hammond, but this fight is chalked for the Fuel, and they don't get anything out of it.
4 versus 3 here as well was actually what was fumbled by the Dallas Fuel. They instantly picked off Shockwave, got rid of a long-range DPS of the Ashe, but in the end it didn't really matter because they got up close and personal anyway. I think Goryo didn't make great use of the amount of range that he had to really try and bully Aztec and Scarippa off these angles, and Scarippa's doing so much healing as well, almost already has the Ant Matrix.
Good dodge. Oh, the sleep! Is this, they have to trade with Aspire. Is anyone from Fuel? No, there's just no one that can access it. Sparkle is too distracted by the fight, and for good reason. Gorilla and Sparkle are working great together to get now 3 picks for the Fuel. So Titans only have False and Aspire floating around, so they're gonna contest the cart and just really buy time for reinforcements so Fuel don't get too much of a push. But this fight is over, and already Fearless is looking much better on the Hammond, more survivability than a Winston.
And of course, he can go into the ball form as well to avoid getting headshot, which is so important when you're up against people like Shockwave and Aztec, who are going to have good headshot multipliers off of their projectiles. The overclock is good to go, Lemon, and you've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times. It can kill people through the Transcendence because of that one-shot burst, which means Aztec is likely going to be saving this Transcendence for something else, like surviving maybe a nanoed Fearless dive, unless Fielder wants to nano Goryo during that ultimate, which he does.
Just even an enhanced brawl, but I want to see Goryo enhanced. He's got, I think he got nano too, and on top of the overclock on a dominant high ground position. That was a great fight for Fuel to take. The immediate awareness of getting on the high ground, and Titans had no answer.
Fearless likely going to take some forward poke here to get those last few percentage points towards the minefield, and this could actually be really useful for trying to keep Vancouver Titans away from contesting this bot as it moves in towards that ever important checkpoint as well, Lemon. Aspire still has a pulse bomb to work with here, and there's nothing to really counter it apart from a sound barrier, and that's a risky cast to try.
If Aspire can even stick it. But she had some actually pretty good stats and comparable to Sparkle as he approaches. He recalls before the sleep that Fielder threw out, and Fielder's won. And even if he's not dead, he's still out of the fight because he has to run away. And without Chio, there's no sound barrier to maybe salvage this fight. Thanks to the passive, though, Fielder will get back on his feet without the need of Chio, and he'll be back pretty soon. So Fuel are going to play passive until they get all their members back. But the Vancouver Titans maybe want to realize this and take up more space. This is the passive playstyle of False playing in again. You have the flux, you can initiate, and there he is. He pulls the trigger on it. The bomb from Shockwave is helping out too. Fuel have only lost one. Fielder stunned up. False can finish this, but okay, Fielder almost got away with it. Thank God for the transcendence of Aztec to help Vancouver just take a very aggressive and enhanced push that we were expecting them to take.
So coming into this match, Lemon, we talked about False and his role as a more passive tank, playing more of a protective role, and that's to allow for Scarippa and Aztec to more freely cast and not be as worried about Gorilla being able to pick them off. And evidently Vancouver right now are feeling the dividends of Aztec and Scarippa being able to freely throw out this damage more and more, closer and closer towards that checkpoint here. Vancouver, goodbye Gorilla!
And is that just him not being aware? Like, Vancouver are just taking this very forward push and using the middle of the map to get into angles I don't think Dallas Fuel were expecting. Nano on the Fearless, survivability top-notch at the front, bullying False out of the picture. And just with that initial pick, Vancouver just were not able to do much.
Vancouver at least got distance, and that might be what could matter quite a bit to them, because I think Dallas feel a little bit weaker when it comes to fights in this primary corridor where Timmy eventually changes allegiance, because the Wrecking Ball's not overly well suited to it. Yusufet Fearless has to exist in the back, looking to try and catch anyone who's out of position and knock them further into the zone of Dallas Fuel's damage.
There's the mines placed around the cart for Fuel. But Vancouver are just sitting happy on the bridge. It's the Fuel that have to approach them. Fuel bought themselves space that they kind of already could have owned, especially with a Hammond. Would have liked to see those mines on the high ground where Titans were nice and safe and force them into uncomfortable positions. Aspire's in the back line, he's got a pulse, but he's shooting tanks right now and he gets low. He has to fade into the shadows. He spots Fielder and Gorilla. There's a pulse on the Fielder. The sleep, it's still a trade, so Aspire's still out of the picture. Fuel with the sound barrier engage, gonna take the advantage where they can. Skyripa was one, using their mortality to buy themselves time. Gorilla just jumps into the loving arms of Aztec's orbs. So Fuel have lost a lot of members through this engage and are left with nothing, and we're not able to take the lead back from Vancouver.
Chio said this is winnable, but I think that Gorilla really got a little bit too big for his boots there, diving into the midst of Shockwave and Aztec. Maybe they didn't respect that backline of a Vancouver Titans, but they are demanding respect. This is not a toothless backline. Aztec going to be briefly dove upon, but Sparkle's not there to really follow it up, and so Vancouver, they don't have to invest too much to survive this.
Oh, middle map control there for Dallas Fuel. You see Fearless is already in the back. He's got the Discord Orb on him. Vancouver starting to get surrounded, and False really doesn't know which angle to hold, but he's going to hold the one with the more members at the front as Fearless, 36% more knockback. He can set up his team for success, but it takes too long for Dallas Fuel to set up. Eventually, Vancouver Titans overwhelmed the front line. They had access to the supports, and Gorilla and Chio are picked, and Vancouver want to maximize the lead that they have.
And this is why we didn't expect too much Wrecking Ball from Fearless on Colosseo, but Wrecking Ball's very weak in this central corridor, Lemon. All of your approaches can be telegraphed so easily and caught by an accretion. False can just take every comer as they move on in. Fearless already dead, and Dallas Fuel, how are they going to take this fight?
I don't know how you do without Fearless, and he is taking so much poke. He wasn't able to initiate the last one, and now he's missing from this one. Respawns are close, though, but Vancouver, after butt scratch here from Timmy, will be able to get even higher than 65 meters, and that's just dangerous. Fuel also don't have Fielder, and False I don't think got much out of the grab flux. He's focused on zoning off Gorilla, who jumps to the high ground and barely gets away. Chio will speed him out, and through all the confusion and the chaos of False tunneling on one person, Fuel were able to strike back, and we're left with a 3-on-3 on the barricade, while Dallas Fuel have respawn advantage. So this should be okay for them to stabilize.
The robot has been stolen away, but once again, Vancouver, they aren't afraid of just fighting in this central nexus. That's where Fearless is at his weakest, and Fearless is going to need to try and play around the outside, play through this mid area to try and get a good dive, and there it is.
Great pile drive from Fearless, and Fuel recognized the engage is perfect. The Coalescence to not only pressure and do damage, but heal and keep the Fearless witch string going at this point. Fearless gets low, and that's just more generation for Chio getting barrier next fight.
And this is the kind of fight that Dallas Fuel want, where Fearless can set up in advance and not have to approach the Vancouver Titans from the front, can instead move around the back, have a sneak to allow Sparkle to follow up on one of these power drivers, or Gurio if he can charge up that railgun off of False's shield.
Oh, Aspire can make a big difference if he wins the duel, but finds Fielder, wants to force out the fate, so he does. Chio got his barrier canceled! Fuel, they needed this for survivability! Fearless is chunked down! Fielder not able to keep up with all of the damage! This was such an important fight in Vancouver at 72-63 with 1 meter left. Fuel are running out of chances. They have the ults to clap back, but this is getting further and further, and Titans can turn this around. Fuel needed to win that fight to maybe tie it up.
A critical rock from False, Accretion stunning Chio out of a sound barrier, removing Dallas Fuel's ability to stay in these aggressive positions that they took, assuming that they'd get that overshield, assuming they'd be more beefy. The overclock is what Dallas Fuel's hopes are pinned on now. How can Fearless set up with a pile driver? When everyone's in the air is when they're the most vulnerable, but Fearless is again going to have to move through the swamp of fire that is being projected by Vancouver Titans.
Aspire not able to be safe in the back line. But you have 5 versus 4 for Fuel. It's a good start, but 16 seconds. Fuel just zoning themselves away from the Ant Matrix. There's the engage from False. He'll get Fielder, and that should guarantee the kill. Fielder's 1 HP, and he fades away. False tunneled on the wrong target, but still without Gurio. Do Dallas Fuel have the damage? It's Shockwave's Bob that's making more of a splash, and Fuel have fumbled this fight. They only have 2 people left, or actually 3 people left now, 2. It's Gurio and Fielder. And it's just not going to work out. Actually, Sparkle and Fielder, they just have to live. Respawn advantage is there for Fuel. Here comes Fearless to add some survivability. Coalescence invested. Then Dallas Fuel are turning the fight around. Pulse Bomb in the middle of the Immortality isn't going to dent Titans too hard, as Titans slowly but surely start to back away. But False is actually holding his ground. And Fearless is about to have mines. He's going to flush them out one way or another. And Titans gave up this fight, and Fuel have a chance to win.
It's a chance, Lemon, but it is by no means guaranteed. Still, they have to deal with the robot pausing at the checkpoint, and overtime is going to go so quickly. If False can get a well-timed Gravitic Flux here, he can force everyone off of the robot, and it will be overtime finished before you know it. However, now someone has to move on and touch this. It's Aspire who's going to have to bite the bullet.
Oh, Aspires to be big with the pulse, and he gets nothing. He's sniped down. And Fuel get to the finish line, and Vancouver took too long to contest. They were dealing with so many threats. Vancouver were dominating this map, and Fuel just turned it around at the last minute of play. I can't believe my eyes.
Somewhere off screen, mines occurred from Wrecking Ball, trying to keep the remainder of Vancouver Titans at bay, and certainly at bay they were kept, allowing Dallas Fuel to park the robot and the barricade into that box of victory. Aspire, try as he might, cannot survive against the will of 3 people on the objective. And Vancouver Titans, they were looking so good there with False in as well. Finally, we were seeing False's role come into fruition, where he had to play a little bit more defensively, be a reserved player who did not demand a huge amount of resources from Scaripper and Aztec, because Aspire needed that Harmony Orb most of the time to go toe-to-toe with a legendary DPS like Sparkle. And Aspire, I think, credit to him, was able to do that, Lemon. But now Vancouver Titans, they have had to deal with a devastating turnaround that Dallas Fuel definitely should not have been able to manage. And we'll see how they try and run back into it after this break.
The Fuel are still surging. Take a look at the final moments of Coliseum coming down to the last 1 minute of the fight. Aspire gets killed on the barricade, whiffing the pulse bomb, and there was no one left to touch, but why was Vancouver so late?
Well, that's because Fearless had actually managed to infiltrate into the back lines, Lemon, using that Wrecking Ball and actually put down a minefield, so it had to be a little bit more haphazard of an approach from the Vancouver Titans. And we were talking about how we needed False to be able to get that Gravitic Flux as a real power play in the final fight to the degree that could have forced the Sig-9. The overtime wick was burning down so quickly that in the moment everyone was lifted off the ground, that could have been it for the Dallas Fuel's overtime push. But Fearless being able to run interference on those reinforcements, allowing for an easy 1v4 or 1v3 to take down Aspire on the cart was really what clinched it for the Fuel.
Yeah, I think just macro-wise, Vancouver just had a hard time getting away from Dallas Fuel, but it's all due to the Fearless swap to the Hammond, which is more mobile and more survivable than a Winston. And they were so aware of the Winston not working out at the start and making the quick swap, which is panicky for any team to do because every team usually walks into a map with a strategy in mind. And for a player to make that call, that's Fuel being confident, especially after the Florida 3-0 they had. Now it's Mirror coming in for the Vancouver Titans, which is their best look by far, as agreed by everyone, including the desk, into a pretty good map for him, Dorado.
It's a good map, but it's a new map, Lemon. This is a remarkable turnaround of strategic tomfoolery from the Vancouver Titans, because yesterday they played false on Dorado against Atlanta Reign, and it was not a great performance from anyone on the team. It's not at all on false. Like, Vancouver Titans as a collective just disintegrated. They looked anemic and useless on Dorado, but maybe we'll see like some hard Vancouver iteration here. Maybe DP's been in the lab. What's the lesson today, Mr. DP? Well, today, Vancouver Titans, we're going to learn how to attack Dorado. And Mira being able to make some actual engagements happen with Doomfist will at least iterate on Vancouver Titans' problems attacking yesterday against the Atlanta Reign, where it felt like Mira, or rather False, was just looking at Atlanta. As with the rest of Vancouver Titans, they were never really fighting them and just waiting to be slain by Kai.
No, I agree. False was just not aggressive enough, and especially on the attack, it's much better for this point A push to have some kind of hero that can access the high ground. And I think this different approach for Titans can look good. You have Shockwave that can take the skies. Aspire has teleported his supports to the back right, giving them some sight lines onto the opposing high ground of the Dallas Fuel's defense, who have brought Fearless back on the Winston. Again, high ground's very important on this map. But now also liking the zoning, or just the shield that Winston provides to break up some of the sightlines of the healers. But still, Zenyatta with the Discord can burst down Fearless very quickly, especially with the Echo, so I'm worried about Fearless's fate. And Dallas Fuel just refused to take any fight at the start of this point A, and now it's going to be up to Market's side. Vancouver going to have limited options on what flanks they can take with Mirror, as we're still just waiting on the engage, and Titans are getting free push.
Oh, Shockwave should be able to kill Fielder here. That's a well-timed anti-nade, and so Shockwave's just going to have to dip out of there as soon as possible. Aspire falls on down, and Lemon, I hate to be a premature Peter here when it comes to making fun of a Vancouver Titans composition, but I really don't think the Baptiste is a great idea. Look at who's on the Vancouver Titans squad. We've got a Tracer, a Doomfist, and an Echo. And Scarippa as a Baptiste cannot, like, reliably heal any of those heroes. Aspire and Mira move too fast to be healed at range by the slow-moving projectiles of a Baptiste, and Shockwave is mostly going to be airbound anyway, and hitting those aerial globules is just not reasonable to expect from your Baptiste. I'd much prefer a Brigitte here.
Yeah, perhaps just having more heals, especially since the recent patch. He has burst heals now, especially even more if a target is low. And that's Vancouver waiting for Fuel to approach and then getting and sniping them back. But Sparkle has got 2 kills. He's killed the support single-handedly, even through the immortality. And BAP has such an important role in this meta, regardless of how he feels, because of that immortality and how it potentially can negate a single ultimate of the Tracer Pulse Bomb. But it's not going to be the case this time. Sparkle turns the fight for Fuel yet again.
Yeah, that was another 4 versus 5 with Guriyo falling first. It really became a problem. Here's Sparkle on the replay, joining Fearless. And as we mentioned before, these guys have been playing together for so long. Sparkle and Fearless, whether it's on Element Mystic or Dallas Fuel last season, but they are in such amazing sync and can really tear through an unprepared backline.
Titans just haven't really taken an engage on their terms, and I think that's because Mirror has just limited angles. He's going to try and bully Fearless, and he won't back down. He's been nanoed by Fielder and just walks into the back line. It's going to kill Skyrim and Aztec for free. I'm surprised Fearless didn't even commit, but saw Mirror, and now the Transcendence. This is surely going to put fear into Fearless, but he backs away. He had the Primal Rage, but didn't want to chance it. He's going to wait for the Transcendence to go away and hope that Fuel can fight back now that resources are equal.
I'm not sure if a Transcendence filled him with fear or filled him with mirth, because honestly, that was a 3-man Transcendence for Vancouver Titans, so he couldn't really get any momentum off. It would have been moving into a 3 versus 5. Now Scrip has moved over onto Viana. It's not the Brigitte I wanted, but it's at least more reliable for these ranged heals and maybe a playmaking anti-nade to follow in Mirror.
There's the counter dive from Fearless, already on Skyripa, who's used a nade on himself, trying to keep himself alive for as long as possible.
What a sleep.
And it's working out because Titans, their counter engage is getting more value quicker. Look how Fuel, they took so much time to kill Skyripa. They've even committed a Primal to do anything at all. But Titans, that's why Doomfist is a little bit better in the meta right now. Just more damage quicker, and also just smart decision making from Skyripa.
That was a big investment from Vancouver Titans, though. They're going to be lacking ults for this final fight. The same for Dallas Fuel. But at this point, it's all about trying to drain down those final few moments, Lemon.
Just a few more meters away, but Titans, it ain't looking pretty if it took your entire time bank to go through point A, which I would consider one of the strongest parts for Doomfist to dominate. But because Dallas Fuel limited his options on how many angles Mirror could take, you saw that Mirror just struggled to initiate any fight, and it came down to kind of DPS picks.
I don't currently have the numbers, Lemon, but I'd love for our stats team to be able to at some point tell me how many first deaths Guriyo has in these fights. It feels like Guriyo is has a bit of machismo, you know, when it comes to using the slide, and can often put himself into a less than ideal scenario that leads him to be easily picked and then put so much focus on Sparkle and Fearless having to overextend to make up for a lack of poking damage. The nano boost is good to go, and that's likely going to be onto Fearless to try and create some space.
Oh, Guriyo almost died again as you were pointing out his deaths, and Fearless ain't looking too good. He was in a tiny building, no place to jump out at, and no matter how much nano fun you're gonna have, if 5 people are looking at you, Fearless is gonna die eventually. So Titans just position themselves very well against the upcoming dive, and if they continue to focus down Guriyo too, who is not involved in that last fight, Shockwave's gonna have more freedom to focus down Fearless and nullify the big win condition and initiation factor of Fuel.
There's no pretty way to say it that Fearless just missed one of the easiest Winston Tesla snipes of his life. Shockwave, unnoted, actually goes in to try and take out Sparkle. That's a very interesting play, considering Sparkle can get out of that using the recall. But now, how does Sparkle contest this point? It has to be Fearless instead.
Oh, there's a fight, and Shockwave is above, laying down the damage. Mirror is desperate for help, and Aztec is there with the Transcendence. Just 50 meters to go, and Titans want to keep up this momentum. They're going to invest even more ultimates. The Meteor strike it more, and there's only 2 left of the Fuel, so this fight is more than done. Titans with a flawless fight win for point B.
Titans are starting to make up for a lack of time that they had coming into point B after they were bogged down in the weeds with that Baptiste comp for a while on A. But now, Shockwave moves over again, a proactive swap, Lemon. Not really a huge amount of stimulus for this, but instead wanting to try and bring the fight to Guriyo and potentially Fearless as well, because remember, with Fearless having a shield here and Mirror not, that means there's much more charging opportunity for Shockwave on that railgun.
All of the poke from Aztec and Shockwave have been on the Guriyo, and finally the Dallas Fuel can clap back and get their last laugh. Drop down from the high ground, the pulse, a great stake on the Mirror. Now Fuel, what do they do about the remnants of Titans? Aspire is sticking around, but he's got to deal with not only Sparkle, but Chio booping him around. As Sparkle heads for the backline and ignores Aspire, goes after Aztec. And Fuel gets to continue to snipe at range with Guriyo. So Fuel are even going for more stagger kills, which is more time away from Titans.
Gurio just sort of treats himself as a dive hero, and I'm not sure if that's just like a Gurio choice or a Rush choice, but it certainly is a Dallas Fuel choice. That Gurio's kind of joining this two-man hit squad of Sparkle and Fearless to be the third wheel, almost like a Genji-style kind of sniper who just gets in there, charges up as much as possible with the left click, and then unleashes hell on the burst.
Dallas Fuel are taking such an early engagement. They forced the Nano out of Skyripper to save Aztec, and they're not even successful with that mission. Skyripper is alone by himself, and, well, Fuel are more focused on finding Mirror, who is going for a counter dive, but without the healing of Skyripper, without Aspire being there, Mirror wasn't going to be able to do anything.
Just an excellent anti-nade there from Fielder, making sure that Aztec couldn't be pocketed through the damage that would have been survivable considering he had 50% damage reduction from the nano boost, but while antied, it's simply impossible. Vancouver Titans are coming up on a Meteor Strike, but it's not a huge playmaking ult, and in overtime where touching the car is imperative and mandatory, Fearless will be able to prime all.
Always initiating! They're always doing it! They're getting nanoed and Fearless jumps in and is clapping these supports left and right, and Titans are trying to do the same thing, but they're just always sitting there and waiting for success to come to them. And Titans might have a breath of fresh air, but they're currently lacking because they're no longer breathing. Fuel have held them at sea.
It's an interesting little bit of irony, Lemon. The Shockwave swapped over to the Sojourn, anticipating that, hey, we'll get inside, and because of the lower ceilings and the lack of vertical cover that's available for someone like a Pharah or an Echo, I'm going to swap over to the Sojourn instead. Whereas the Sojourn, I think, actually would have been better for the fights that they were forced to take. Dallas Fuel decided to take the fights outside, where the Echo would have been at her best, able to just perch up on the high grounds and freely weave in and out of a fight at her leisure. And Dallas Fuel, I think, really took advantage of the fact that Shockwave did not have much cover nor much setup time by taking these early fights. It meant that Shockwave could never get an early catch out with a charged railgun shot. It was always Gurio able to strike first because Fearless and Sparkle demanded so much attention.
Now you're seeing kind of the value of also the Winston on the dive. Initially, Fuel had some struggles, like thinking back to the first fight that Fuel lost on the dive when Fearless wasted Primal. Skyripper antied himself, or just used the biodegrade on himself to keep himself healed up, and then Mirror and Aspire and Shockwave had the better counter dive because they were killing things faster. But then, Fuel, instead of going after Skyripper so much, they just realized that Aztec and Skyripper are just playing so far from each other. They placed the bubble between Skyripper and Aztec, and Aztec can't get healed. If you have to nano your Zen to stay alive and he's still dying, you're just wasting ults, and it's just not favoring the Titans. And Fuel with this comp are going to look just as good, and they're going to try and probably zone Mirror off this high ground.
One of the things that's going to be most interesting here is Sparkle's pathing as a Tracer, because very hard to access the high ground initially as a Tracer. You've got to invest some time in the commute instead to be able to join Fearless in any of his high ground dives. A good amount of Vancouver Titans are actually just hopping up on top of Yellow Roof over there. The Yellow Roof gang is going to be very difficult to really deal a huge amount of damage to. So Dallas Fuel as a whole just start making a rotation to try and clear Vancouver Titans away from these high ground positions.
Because Fuel just don't want to get surrounded. Titans were taking multiple angles to not clump up against the Winston, and Fuel get around that. And they've already found the supports. The Ana and Skyripper and Aztec are just dead. I'm wondering, should there be more of a solution to the Winston than just an honestly? Because Skyripper's not a baboon. He's not going to just walk into the Winston bubble. He's more likely to preserve his own life and trust Mirror to do better. But Fuel are crushing these supports right now, and that's a problem.
Yeah, when you've got that Discord Orb, Fearless should be an easy kill, or at least an easy chase for Aspire, but the thing is, Aspire has to continuously go up against Sparkle. Now with Sparkle taken down early, I expect Fearless to be under a lot more pressure as Aspire can freely try and move through them.
Skyripper's just dead, and so is Aztec. Rinse and repeat. Deja vu from first fight. Dallas Fuel didn't even got to sleep. The Shockwave moves in the back line. That's a flawless fight for Fuel. And with 2.5 minutes to spare, this is 2.5 minutes faster than Titans, who did this in OT.
And that was another 4 versus 5. With Sparkle dead, Gurio is a dive Sojourn, just joining Fearless in the nano dive, able to cleave through because they're like, okay, Gurio, do you have a railgun shot? Yes, sir, I do. Well, then let's get in there, bud. Vancouver Titans now have to try and defend B. It was a much faster push through A for Dallas Fuel than we saw from Vancouver Titans. So now, how do you try and leverage the high ground advantage you have as defenders to try and slow down the Fuel?
Mirror is going to be forced to engage. He got booped down from the high ground by Chio. Mirror seems to be in a good spot. He's going to take shelter from under as Aztec takes that to the dome. Another Fuel 5 versus 4 engagement. And there, Aspire in the middle of the fight, very low. Sparkle coalescing on targets with the rest of his team. And Dallas Fuel are barely losing anyone. Mirror got nanoed, and what did that accomplish? The Fuel are now going to get even more stagger kills because Titans were hesitating on whether that was winnable with only Skyrip and Mirror alive. So they head for the end of the point, and Fuel are just rocking right now.
And the thing about the Mirror Nano is that maybe that Nano could have gone over to Aztec to save him from the Pulse and have a fully fledged 5 versus 5 fight. Instead, Vancouver, they invested when down on ultimates, and Mirror's had to disengage again.
At least you have something to save yourself from the dive of Transcendence, but Fearless has been not only nanoed, but sound barrier. Dallas Fuel are gonna be here a while. Skyrip, I'm surprised Fearless didn't commit, but he took so much damage from multiple angles. Fearless is not used to being challenged, and that was due to Aspire maybe getting nanoed at that point, and Titans finally were able to kill Fearless.
Aztec's been so impressive over the last 2 games, as was Zenyatta. We did not see him survive a critical dive at the end of Point C, admittedly, but I think that Aztec has definitely been adding a huge amount of firepower to the Vancouver Titans in tandem with Mirror that has moved them from that really toothless kickoff clash Vancouver Titans into a far more dangerous group of 5 that we've seen in the mid-season madness, even if they can no longer qualify. Fearless here has the Primal Rage, excellent chance to try and dislodge a Vancouver Titans who might be overly reliant on high ground positions here with their lesser ultimates to win the fight.
He doesn't know! He got him with a lot of stickies, but not enough for the focusing beam to come out, and then Gorilla uses the slides after grabbing the pack, I think, to leave. As Shockwave almost had a massive pick, even with the stealth. It's still working out for the Titans. You managed to outpoke Sparkle before he could blink into your backline. You trade that out with a pick on the Shockwave. A 4 versus 4 now ensues. Fearless is in the pack with a Primal, and the supporters of Titans are just suffering. The mental health is just crumbling at this point. Dallas Fuel meters away from point B. Titans have a ton of ults, and it has to come out now. The Nano onto Aspire. He has to pop off, and so he does! The pulse bomb onto the supports before Fielder could unleash the Nano! What a massive play from the DPS of Titans!
Aspire is the 11th plague that simply rips through the Dallas Fuel. Both the supports taken out at once with the double pulse spawn. Here's a quick replay to see how Aspire just pulled this one out of a hat. Mr. Houdini, what a magic trick you've got for us today. Shio comes in to try and defuse, but he didn't buy a kit, mate, so I'm afraid you don't have time for that. Vancouver Titans, they still have this duplicate, and Dallas Fuel, they have no Sparkle.
Yeah, that 2 fights in a row now that Sparkle gets first by Poke, and yeah, you saw him. Sparkle will always have a smile on his face, and he'll shake it off. It's fine.
Just a little bit of mental recuperation here. Question for Shockwave. Who do you copy? Ideally, maybe Fearless. That Winston bubble would be able to do so much to shut down Fielder and the healing that they can throw on out, but you've got to find Fearless first. Look at him, surrounded on all sides by the Vancouver Titans, who are doing a lot more now to try and shut down Fearless, chase him down with Aspire. It's a long rotation all the way through Point C. It's a rarer one from the Dallas Fuel. A rare sirloin steak that Vancouver Titans are going to have to try to chew through on this long high ground.
I wouldn't mind even a Tracer duplicate. Shockwave can play that too, and it's a quick ultimate to get. Transcendence, though, forced out by Fielder's dive on the Aztec. There's the copy onto Ana. See if he get a sleeper, an anti on the Fearless, and Aspire delivers again a double pulse bomb. Titans are being kept alive by the skin of Aspire's teeth. And now you're just giving nanos to congratulate him? What was that?
Well, that was a duplicate Nano. Had to be used, otherwise it was going to go. And oh my goodness, Aspire sticking Chio midway through the cast of a sound barrier. Chio had such a poor decision there to try and out-time that barrier. Yes, it's going to be overtime, but for Dallas Fuel, they are low on resources, and Scarippa almost has for Nano. This could be everything if Mirror can make some light of it, or even Aspire as before.
There's the Nano. Oh, but he's anti. He didn't want to use it on Tamir. Wanted to wait to see if he would get out. And you have to use it onto someone. And Shockwave is sleeping, so that didn't work out either. Titans are going to have to play from behind, and they need to go to almost the end of the map to get to the box of victory. And it's 5-on-3 for the Fuel. Defense ringing strong. There's the Primal, tossing up the backline. Titans don't have any healing. It's up to damage. Mirror has the Meteor Strike. He can buy time. You need Aspire to have presence on the cart too. And Dallas Fuel are just going to have point B and have a minute and a half for the box of victory.
Oh, Scarippa had it right there, the ability to keep Mirror alive. They were strong enough to have the win, Lemon, but too weak to take it. And now Fearless can start stuffing them into their spawn. Vancouver Titans swapping again away from the Echo, where she doesn't have the vertical cover, and on to the Sojourn. This isn't Shockwave's strongest hero, but it has to be the one that claims some ground back from the Dallas Fuel. Now a Nano in the pocket for Fielder could spell doom for the Titans.
But this is a great spot for Doom. It's very close range, a lot of walls. He can get the stun. Sparkle is low. Aspire gets the chase down, misses the pulse, but Fueler giving up space. Fearless is going to get it back. He's been nanoed. Fielder has to sacrifice himself for it. Limited heals for the Fuel, and they can't do any damage because of the transcendence of Aztec. Guriel can try and burst through it. Maybe he manages to get one pick, but Fuel have to head back. They can't afford to stagger anymore with 31 seconds left.
All in there for the Vancouver Titans, but it was entirely necessary. Now it's down to one fight. Dallas Fuel in an uncomfortable position. Chio, once again, has themselves close to a sound barrier. This one cannot be an Ajax. This one must be delivered, and it must be delivered to more than 3 people. Fielder swaps over to Moira. Close range healing for everybody. The orbs might be the difference maker and potentially a quick Cole as well. And now it has to be the touch as Scarippa lies in wait, building inexorably to a Nano.
And Sparkle is on the card, started the overtime. Dallas Fuel hit by an anti. Sparkle can't afford to die here. Shockwave on an off angle, charging up anywhere he can, providing support to Mirror. Mirror gets the Nano. He's in the back line. It forces out the sound barrier of Chio. Dallas Fuel trying to counter-rotate away from the Fuel. Guriel has been isolated. He swoops back into his team, but into death. And Fuel have to play this from behind. Sparkle can't make the plays yet. Actually, he does equalize with a pick on the Mirror. Titans don't have a front line. It's up to the damage. Aztec, though, is getting warded away. Fearless claims the lives of the backline yet again, and Sparkle can live through the fight for the first time in Toronto. And through the last seconds, Fuel get to the box of victory and go to series point.
It didn't look likely, but Aspire could have been there, could have kept it going for just a second longer. However, Dallas Fuel, like you said, Lemon, series point belongs to them. If Vancouver Titans want to go 1-9 instead of 0-10, it has to be a reverse sweep. And while we have seen flashes, supernovas of brilliance, especially from Aspire, 2 double sticky bombs, 2 double pulse bombs that were absolutely cataclysmically important in deciding fights, it is not enough. Dallas Fuel, this is a championship caliber team, second at the kickoff clash, and when the chips are down, their poker face remains stern and elated with the smell of victory. Vancouver Titans have a lot ahead of them, and are they strong enough to make it happen?
Hey, yo, y'all good at drawing? You got any art? Any manga? Any ayayas? Well, you could submit your art, and all art is accepted, okay? Even anime. Look at this shot. The Houston, I think this is the Houston Outlaws. It's green anyway. But you can submit no matter what art of no matter what team you like. The Overwatch. Submit for your chance to be featured on the fan art gallery. You can even have your masterpiece on the OWL broadcast, just like this one. Just make it obvious for me because I have no brain. But when it comes to drawing, Vancouver Titans are only drawing L's. But the maps are pretty close, to be fair.
Yeah, Weeb's out and Vancouver Titans into the mix of teams that do present a threat, Lemon. There are no freebies here for the Dallas Fuel, as good as the Dallas Fuel are. And as 0-9 as Vancouver Titans have been, these have been incredibly close maps. And it feels like Aspire right now is a real superstar in terms of being able to generate the clutch moments that make it so close. Double pulse bombs, 2 of them on Dorado. And he's able to do that because Mira's so aggressive. And Aztec is so much of a threat that they draw attention from the Dallas Fuel. Sparkle getting consistently first picked from the secondary members of Vancouver Titans, like Scareppa with an anti-nade, or a body shot railgun coming through from Shockwave, meant that Aspire had so much more freedom to operate. And if Vancouver Titans can continue to shut down the Tracer versus Tracer and give Aspire a little bit more breathing room because he's not marked by Sparkle, they may be able to clinch out a map win here.
Just Titans have 2 options. It's very basic. You try to counter Fearless's Winston, which he's probably going to whip out, or the Hammond, whichever one, because the Ana Zen from Skyrim and Aztec was just getting clapped most of Dorado. They were dead every fight. The only times they really didn't die or get slapped was when Aztec had Transcendence, and that was pretty much it. You can't always depend on those. And option 2 is for Mirror's counter dive to get value quick. And sometimes we didn't always see that perspective of how that really broke down in terms of focus fire from Aspire and Mirror supposedly working together with the Tracer and the Doomfist. We saw the Titans dive get value, but only if Skyrim and Aztec lived long enough. But will only be the case of the Dive's defense here for Fuel on Eichenwald, potentially our last map, as we'll see what Titans are going to drum up. But Mirror has really only played Doomfist when he appears.
Dallas Fuel once again playing what I like to call the time capsule composition, because they're playing this tank and support line that's a lot more reminiscent of the kickoff clash than it is the mid-season madness, with a lot of teams going in opposite directions towards the Doom, towards the Sigma, and in some cases the Wrecking Ball as well. But Fearless here is believing in the value of the Winston shield and the cleave onto multiple members, especially against Scareppa and Aztec. But remember, Aztec as a Zen is by no means an easy dive for a Winston anymore with that knockback.
Yeah, if you even get in range of the knockback, because Fearless is not trying to hug Aztec. He stays far away enough for his Tesla to get range. And look at that, just focus fire from Fuel. They all collapse, and then Guerrero gets charged up and finishes off targets. So great first fight for Fuel.
We've described Dallas Fuel before as a team of hive mind. Like, they can share a single neural link. They have the central processor, whether it's Hanbin or Fearless. And Guerrero and Chio's ability to just, like, kind of int in as divers themselves has been invaluable to making Dallas Fuel's dives incredibly deadly.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty deadly. Sojourn's pretty good at the game, huh? And Titans, I mean, they were trying to approach the left side. Rare is not going to be trying to fight Fearless head-on if he can avoid it. He's going to try and get access to the back line if he can, or even just put any pressure on the Guerrero and help Titans move forward. But Dallas Fuel, all they have to do is cut off those rotations, which Guerrero was very good at just now. So Titans have to be aware, and either Aspire or Shockwave have to give attention to Guerrero, and it's Aztec throwing orbs Guerrero's way, and Aztec has exposed themselves. He tried to kick Fearless away, but it's too little too late. The disruptor shot of the Sojourn gets the final kill for the defense, and Titans are left with having to play from behind. Skyrim has Nano and thinks it's winnable. Gives it to Mirror, who has a Meteor Strike. He can play aggressive, and working with Aspire, he's going to finish off Fearless. So a great turnaround for Titans despite starting off the fight 4v5.
Yeah, sacrifices were made there, but Mirror and Aspire survived, as too did the Nano onto Mirror, allowing for a huge amount of damage to be put onto the large frame of the Winston using the hand cannon that Doomfist has. Very good at close range or against large targets, and Vancouver Titans have been able to claim the first point here. Dallas Fuel, they are going to be able to defend from a high ground, but given what we know about their playstyle, they're just going to move in as a unit.
Yeah, that's the Dallas Fuel unit in that house, and Mirror, does he want that smoke? He could. I mean, he's got Meteor Strike. Looks like Mirror's just not going to enter, or maybe he could be behind them. Dallas Fuel are going to take the other way around. Titans just trying to own their front line and actually get past it. The Sound Barriers force from Chio. Fearless has been nanoed. He has a Primal Rage too. He's going to try and help his own back line and kills Mirror before he could even touch Fielder. So Dallas Fuel, the synergy's on fire today.
Dude, that was a perfect experimental barrier coming out. The bubble that contains the shockwave of the Meteor Strike to make sure that not only was Mirror denied the slows and the damage, but also a little bit of extra shielding as well was taken away. And that meant Fearless could contain the threat and execute it. And this is given time now for Fielder to get up onto high ground alongside Gorilla and once again operate from a position of safety. That's going to take a lot of time for Aspire to try and commute to. And all of that time is precious.
So Mirror's going to try and get access to Castle. I mean, we've seen his success on Iconfall before. I mean, he brought it close to, what, the Atlanta Reign yesterday? They only lost 3-2, and Mirror was just able to make so many plays once he entered Castle, and Sparkle hits him with the drive-by. Great pulse bomb onto Shockwave. Dallas Fuel to 5v4. Aspire with the answer, and a double kill. Aspire does it again. His back is just broken with how many plays he makes for Titans. But Fuel, they tried to extend and get access to the supports, and they fall, and Titans are able to break out a spot.
This is the kind of Aspire dominance that got the OWL community flaming Toronto to fight when they let him go from that 30-day contract. Aspire is on fire right now, and admittedly that one was Fielder's fault. You are supposed to stand still. That's a protocol when you get stuck. But walked into Gorio instead.
It's been an interesting Tracer match. That's what's really sparking up these fights. Guria with Overclock, not connecting onto much. Body shot on the Aztec, not enough to kill him. And now he's trying to swoop away because Mirror has his number. And look at that Fearless peel again. Fearless isn't trying to counter dive. He's trying to protect his team and work together on targets instead of split. And I think that is the Dallas Fuel difference.
The target focus is just so good. Fearless even getting some great jump techs as well to bounce Mirror back into the midst of Dallas Fuel, so Guria could continue getting unabated shots onto that Doomfist. Mirror still making sure that Dallas Fuel can't poke for free by taking this advanced position and making sure that Gurio's attention is split and that Field has to continually move away to top people up. But Fearless, with this position on the high ground, should be able to easily access Aztec and Scarippa and cause real problems for Vancouver's backline.
Oh, Aztec's in trouble yet again, and he's split away from Skyrippa. Fearless placed a bubble right in between. Skyrippa couldn't heal Aztec, and he's 94 on Transcendence, so couldn't save himself either. Fuel, though, they lost Gurio yet again at the start of these fights. He's always the target the Titans focus down on, at the very least 4v4, but it's the high ground advantage for Fuel, and they can choose when they want to engage next.
Relative safety here for Scarippa. Oh, that's a lovely little bit of Doom Tech there from Mirror. The cancel on the seismic slam means that Fearless goes low, but it's still within the zone of influence of the Lucio, so there's plenty of healing to be had as Aspire lies in wait for the bomb.
But the barrier from Chio, not enough to save Fielder. Moment, great patience from Aspire. I guess Fielder never got the barrier. So kind of a disconnect for the Fuel. A rare moment, and Gurio even gets a snipe on the Skyrippa. Surely this is a great fight for Fuel. 45 seconds left for Titans as they somehow stabilize. Even though Fuel had the better position on the high ground, Titans knew how to react and how to do better.
Alright, the exit frag saves it from being a zoning overclock, and now there are a couple of hostages from Dallas Fuel, but you can't underestimate them here if you're Mirror. Waiting and misses onto Gurio. There could be plenty of healing available, but no. This is going to be an undermanned fight for Dallas Fuel to try and defend the end of B-Lemon.
Oh, Fuel were just trying to survive, and look what happens when Titans get to engage on their terms. Well, I guess Mirror got slept, so never mind. But they did look good at the start of that fight, but with no tanks, Titans can only depend on the Spire. 2 supports and a Dream. Let's see if Aspire can get it done. He has the pulse bomb, but that's Sparkle with the pulse bomb onto his supports, and Fearless just squashed Skyrippa like a bug. Overtime about to go away, and the Titans will not be capping B.
Oh, Vancouver Titans. They did 2 separate 1 versus 5s before that fight even happened. They decided that they'd give Shockwave a go at the 1 versus 5, didn't work out, and then Mirror joins in afterwards. Maybe it was sending good money after bad, hoping that maybe Shockwave could be rescued by a big Doomfist dive, a couple of people punched out by a super punch or something, but no. Mira was just slept and then summarily executed after Shockwave had been dealt with previously, and then it was down to Scarippa and Aztac, who couldn't really have much presence on the point, being an Ana and a Zen, and Aspire, who had to juggle so much. Sure, he's got the nano, yes, but Aspire is also the designated card toucher as well, so he can't commit to a dive on Fielder. He simply has to play it from range after using that initial recall to keep overtime ticking along. And it means that Fielder can luxuriously heal after that, do whatever he wants, and Fearless and Sparkle can orchestrate a well-stuck dive onto Aztac and Scarippa to instantly evaporate them.
Yeah, this is really tough that we're just seeing Titans continue with the Ana Zen, and it's getting punished. You think that with the kick of Zen, you'd be able to go ward a Winston away, hence why a lot of teams went away from the Winston. But the difference is Fearless is not on top of Aztac. He's far enough away where the kick's not connecting, and Skyrippa, his playstyle does not just enter bubbles and go for sleeps. I've barely seen Fearless slept this entire series. There's also a spatial disconnect between Skyrippa and Aztac, which is getting Aztac killed time and time again. Not sure if intentional to preserve Skyrippa or not, but the Dallas Fuel dive is deadly. You see that Aspire is trying to go into the backline. He's playing more conservative. That's a 3-man ante from Skyrippa. Are Titans going to want to react to this? Mira starts cornering the Fuel in mini path room, and Fuel are going to rotate away and try and play their lives.
Dallas Fuel simply hold their tongue for now. Look at Gurria with a charge on the railgun. This could be everything, but instead it's used to try and knock down Mira instead. Dallas Fuel move to try and claim some space here, but have to deal with Aspire in the backline, Lemon.
Oh, Mira's been slept, so is he cool? Is he good? Fuel?
We Gucci?
Trying to get the trades? They were missing some members, so Fuel had to make the most out of that Mira sleep situation, and the damage did not come quick enough. Mira is woke, and so are the Titans' defense.
Vancouver Titans doing well off the collapses here. Scarippa finds the angle to weave in the 3-man ante, and that simply makes sure that Dallas Fuel are at a considerable deficit when it comes to the usage of their resources. They are delayed. When it comes to rotating, that means Vancouver Titans can set up these angles, and once again, Fearless is forced to use an early bubble here.
I like the Titans are trying to cut off these rotations. They've had a couple good antes from Skyrippa, but nothing that Titans have been able to capitalize on. Spire has a pulse. Does he want to just like double blink in and just go for it? There's no immortality. He's gonna be smarter than that though. Just focus on the damage. Caught some strays though from Sparkle, 4-on-4, and making a man advantage for the Fuel, who advanced towards the point and took half their time bank to get there. And Sparkle almost deleting himself with that pulse bomb, but either way, this should be a good fight for Fuel. Forced having to invest more though than they expected. As Aztac thinks it's winnable. It's only him and Aspire on the point. Mira's around the corner. That's a questionable stall from the Titans, who are shook, but maybe it's not all over. There's a pulse on the Fielder. Fuel don't have any heals, so Chio goes for a barrier, which only hits him and Gurria. The Spaghetti's just on the floor.
It's a spaghetti fest right now. It's like an earthquake in an Italian restaurant. Guess who's back? It's Mira. Scarippa too. An ante onto Fearless, slept within the air. Execution is probably off the cards. There's not enough burst to do so, and Sparkle's back as well. But all of that started with rather confusing transcendence from Aztac, and then Aspire managing to hit a stick onto Fielder. This made Fielder go over onto the Moira. This may be another changeover here, and yes, it will be. Fielder returns to Viana, playing the long game here, Lemon. But that wasn't the worst defense from Vancouver Titans. Only 4 minutes here for Dallas Fuel to try and make their way through B, which sounds like a lot, but this is such a difficult point to attack. The high ground's Ashia, and his Gurria around the back, almost with an overclock. A touch of poke or a disruptor field, and it could spell curtains.
On the high ground, the disruptor shot. Aztac's already low. Look at the immediate follow-up from Fearless. Discord arm on him, and he doesn't care. But Fuel's backline cares just a little bit, because Fielder and Chio are dead, but then you trade that with Titans healers, so Fuel, they only have their Tracer alive. It's a 1-on-3. Sparkle, they ain't gonna make it happen. It was a cool trade onto the Tracer, but that's all you're gonna get.
Alright, Mira has to get out and get healed, but this is a good amount of charge, actually, for Scarippa towards that Nano, and that could be a good engagement tool in the forthcoming battle. For Gurria, save the overclock and try and make this same pinch work again.
Oh, got Gurria shot overclock on the low ground. Okay, well, I guess Fuel are forcing Titans to drop from the high ground. Titans just walked into their death. They're just gifting them a free fight. And Fuel have 3 minutes to win one more fight for the box of victory to sweep this series.
Did Cheer get around behind them or something? I don't understand why Aztec would leave the high ground there. It must have been a Cheer flank boop or something like that. Vancouver now, at least, they didn't invest much in that previous fight. Still have the Meteor Strike, which means Mira can go super aggressive, try and use everything to kill Fielder or Chio, and then get out for free. But someone has to rotate onto the cart at all times.
Mira's already bullied his way through the right doorway, and Aspire's right by his side. The Fearless bubble has been laid, and Fuel's supports are okay for now, as the Titans hope to capitalize, but their supports, the Titan supports are not okay. Skyripa is forced yet again to Nano Aztec to guarantee that they have Transcendence. Fuel have been anti. Fearless and Chio should be dealt with. At least it's only Fearless, and Chio will conserve the sound barrier for the next fight. Still 2 minutes left for Fuel.
Less than a meter stood between Vancouver Titans and being 0 and 10 Lemon. And while the reverse sweep may be less than likely here, maybe a map would be Vancouver Titans, just piece de resistance. Slowly the cart begins to roll on back, but it's enough that it doesn't really matter at this point. It's all about taking these fights one at a time, and Dallas Fuel have got so much of this forthcoming one. A nanoed Winston to try and tear through the Titans, and Fearless on the cart.
Oh my god. I almost had organs fall out of me from just how I almost just had a heart attack. And I just wanted to keep this PG. Fearless almost C9'd it. He's gonna primal and just backhand the supports. The Titans and their supports dead. Name a better duo. Fuel are just gonna continue to dominate now that there's no healing left for Titans, and Dallas Fuel are just playing with their food. Eventually are gonna push this one in, and that's a clean sweep from the Dallas Fuel, 3-0 against the Titans, who had a better bark in the first two maps, I gotta say.
For Dallas Fuel, it was a 10-map loss streak since the finals of the Kickoff Clash Lemon, into a 6-map win streak now against the Vancouver Titans and Florida Mayhem. Finally, the identity for the Midseason Madness has been found for the Texas Lone Star hopefuls, and maybe they can take it all the way to the Midseason Madness. And sure, Vancouver Titans had these splashes of brilliance, but when it came to the overall strategy, Dallas Fuel simply had them beat. The move from Fearless to jump onto the cart from underneath and force Aspire to come his way was so smart, because it meant that Sparkle had so much more room then to operate, almost pulsed Scarippa, and also it meant that Aztec had to reveal himself on the bridge, and Fearless was like, I don't need to stay on the cart, we still got 2 minutes, bro. I'm gonna Primal Rage and get rid of that Zenyatta, who's proven to be incredibly dangerous over the course of this game.
Well, there was one smart monkey this match. Our player of the match is Fearless, who just proved that Winston can still rock. And, you know, he got some help. He got almost every single nano from Fielder. He made a smart swap to the Hammond on Coliseum to just have more survivability against the poke. Now, the mines were okay. Maybe I've seen some better ones. But the Primal Rages really generated nightmares for Skyripa and Aztec. And I'm just surprised how stubborn the Titans were of just not being able to either swap their support lineup, swap their comp. Even we've seen Shockwave Ash, that could have been an answer. I'm not sure if it's the answer, but just there wasn't an answer from the Titans to just this incredible tank player of Fearless.
Yeah, but Primal Blade does not only exist in the sheath of Gushway, Fearless also has access to the 1,000-folded Gorilla Steel. Hero damage done per 10 minutes, not a huge amount here, Lemon, because Fearless wasn't taking longer fights. These fights were never overly protracted. They were always characterized by quick bursts of action. If you think about that first fight where Dallas Fuel were defending Eichenwald, all 5 members essentially with Fielder coming up the rear, just he's a little bit slower, piled into that room after Fearless, and the Hive Mind has well and truly once again been synchronized behind this Winston, which is when Dallas Fuel is at their most scary.
Dallas Fuel right now are at their most scary since the kickoff clash. They're on a 6-map win streak. They haven't lost yet. It got close, though, against the Titans. I mean, the Titans were winning Coliseum, and then look how Fuel turned things around. And it's about finding that identity in this meta, which a lot of teams have different ones. Hammond, Sigma, Doomfist. Mirror and friends of Vancouver Titans trying to hone in on the Doomfist, but not able to coalesce into an actual win. It did get close, though, but I'd love to hear about what Watchpoint thinks about not only this Winston, but how the Titans' chances are in the future. We're going to see you guys after this break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League, and by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome to the post show, everybody. I'm here joined now by Gurio from Dallas Fuel. Gurio, congratulations on the win. 3 Overwatch for Dallas Fuel. Really, really good. Great job. I just wanted to point this. I mean, it was against the Vancouver Titans. Was there anything specific you guys prepared for the Vancouver Titans today? 일단 오늘 승리 너무 축하드리고 오늘 밴쿠버 경기에서 굉장히 좋은 모습을 보여준 것 같아요. 오늘 경기 좀 어떻게 준비를 하셨나요?
어제 메이엠전 준비했던 거랑 크게 안 다른 것 같아요. 저희가 제냐타 바티스트 이용한 조합 쓰다가 이제 델러스는 루시우를 너무 빠른 템포의 조합이다라는 걸 깨닫고 그냥 메이엠 때 준비했던 거랑 똑같이 빠른 템포의 조합 준비했던 것 같아요.
All right. I mean, there's nothing really that changed from yesterday's match. I mean, we knew that there was going to be a lot of Zen and Bap today against the Vancouver Titans as well, just like yesterday, and it was going to be a fast tempo. So yeah, just like yesterday's match, we sort of did the same thing. We came in prepared, and I think that's what we did against the Vancouver Titans. And I also want to sort of talk a little bit about you, Gurio. I feel like you came in this season as a Widow player, and now you're on the starting roster as and you've been popping off on the Sojourn as well. What are some of the things that you've been working on? 자, 두 번째 질문 이제 구리오 선수에 대해서 좀 여쭤보고 싶어요. 일단 원래는 좀 위도우 주점으로 이렇게 하는 선수였다가 요즘 들어서 스타팅 로스트에 들어오고 또 요즘 되게 소전으로 굉장히 좋은 모습을 많이 보여주고 계신데 좀 요즘 어떤 노력을 하시고 있나요?
위도 많이 기용할 때 조금 아쉬운 모습 많이 보여준 것 같아서 소전 새로운 캐릭터잖아요. 그래서 소전으로 할 수 있는 그런 한계를 최대한 찍으려고 많이 연습했던 것 같아요.
All right. As for when I was, mainly sticking to the Widow role, I wasn't really satisfied with my performance. But Sojourn being the new character, I really want to push it to the limits, see how far I could get with that Sojourn, and that's really the only thing that I've been focusing on for my plays. All right, Gurio, that is it for the interview. Thank you so much for your time, and again, congratulations on the win. 오늘 승리 너무 축하드리고 다시 나중에 또 좋은 모습으로 인터뷰했으면 좋겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Bye.
I didn't get the wave.
Yeah.
Oh, you're hanging. Can't believe it. But yeah, Gurio, very, very much one of our most improved players, I would say. If there was a Watchy award to hand out for that, he's definitely going to be a contestant for that. Now, let's talk about how the Dallas Fuel got the W. Reinforced. If we're looking at the other side here, I mean, quite frankly, the Vancouver Titans, they played this a lot closer.
It's closer.
It was a closer
So close.
3-0 than some people would have expected. And it always sounds weird to say that was a close 3-0, but it kind of was. They dragged it out at least.
Yeah, but it's so tough, right? Because the Vancouver Titans, they just have this immensely difficult strength of schedule. And they just keep getting into these close matches with like really good teams, whereas the Atlanta Reign, the Dallas Fuel, and they got San Francisco Shock coming up next week. And it's like, you give these guys a break. Like, they're actually putting up pretty good performances. Aspire on the Tracer again, like with another great performance. And you just want them to squeeze out the win, but the Dallas Fuel, they just kept overpowering them, especially in the clutch. When it came to overtime, the Dallas Fuel, they just show what they're about. Gurio with a pretty good performance here on Sojourn here today. But the Vancouver Titans, they're so close. Here's what I'll say. I got my calendar marked. In 2 weeks' time, Costa.
I'm writing down.
They're playing the Washington Justice.
Oh!
They're playing the Shock next week, and then they're playing the Washington Justice. And I really do think with the performances, like the ones today, it says 3-0, it says 3-0 against the Gladiators, but they're actually playing pretty well, and they're playing meta compositions. I think they could beat the Washington Justice, and you will see me predict Vancouver.
I'm going to be so disappointed if Johnny says this and 2 weeks later he just predicts Washington.
No. Hex, mark it in. I'm predicting the Vancouver Titans in 2
He
weeks.
already said today he'll never predict Washington Justice.
Ever again.
Yeah.
Ever.
It was
That was a promise
listed.
made.
I agree with Johnny. Like, the first two maps were literally overtime pushes. Vancouver were in the driver's seat on Colosseo. They just lost on Dorado. This is a great series. They're playing well. But Dallas Fuel looking to find some form of form. They seem to have an idea of how they want to play the game right now, which is good because last week they looked very lost.
Yeah.
They have Fearless in. Lemon Kiwi and Leg Day, they wanted to know what we thought of the Winston. I don't love it. These maps were conducive and they do seem to be playing well around Fearless, so I don't have a problem with it too much. But I think they might get punished as they play better teams. Yes, they went 6-0 this weekend, but they played the Vancouver Titans and the Florida Mayhem. I want to see more from them against better teams, but at least they're on the upswing right now.
Absolutely. Now, it is very frustrating, though, if you're a Vancouver Titans fan, because they are doing so well in this stage, in this meta, and that's the one stage where they have such a tough schedule. If they were to go up against any of our mid-table teams or the lower-table teams, they would be raking up the W's as we speak, right? So, and then next stage, you don't know what the meta is going to be like. So maybe they get unlucky and then.
Also Risa?
Who knows?
No.
Who knows? But yeah, it's got to be frustrating, but there's definitely a lot of reasons to celebrate that roster as is right now, and we can't wait to see more. Calendars are marked. They're going to beat the Justice. We've already discussed that. Basically, we can skip that match preview when the games happen, right? But first things first, before that highlight is about to go down, we have plenty of highlights to talk about, which transpired today on the server and in this truck. I'm going to start things off with, I mean, it's not really a highlight for the person involved, but it kind of was for me, honestly. I love a good fail. What can I say? Kalias was a little.
Oh yes!
He was eager.
So what happened there? Did he not look up enough?
Yeah, I think it was just the tilt of the camera. It was just not.
Yeah.
It wasn't there.
He just didn't really get that verticality on the jump.
That's just unluckers. I mean, they were still able to like set it up for the fight in time. He was back quick-ish enough, but that's not what you want to. That's not what
I'm here, guys. I'm here.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Don't worry,
I'm just
nothing
setting up real
happened.
quick.
I always hope that no one is following my camera at that point. I was like, no one's yeah, I was entertained, and I guess that's why it's my best of the day. Jonathan, who entertained you today?
I guess my best today is like the opposite of yours. Because it was a Doomfist actually like punching people off the map rather than falling in himself.
Both sides of the coin, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the Muse was a bit amusing on Gibraltar.
Dangerous amusement. Right,
That's smart.
Yeah.
Look at it go. I mean, he's just punching these people off. I love to see this.
Wow.
Yeah. Most of the time when like you get that feeling as well, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna boop someone off, I'm gonna hook someone off with Roadhog, or I'm gonna try to punch someone off. Like that's a bad feeling. Like that's a bad thing to do as a player. You're not supposed to like look for boops. But it feels like it worked out for Muse here. He's just like looking for boops on Doomfist and he got value from it. So you can't blame him.
Work like a charm. Not many people get booped on that side of the map. That very rarely happens.
I mean, they were lining up for it, you know. Like not to take anything away from our amusement park there, but they were kind of
Yeah, they kind of upsets me, honestly. It kind of upsets me that they weren't like, am I in danger here? It's like, no.
Like, this looks fine. There's no railing or anything, you know.
I'm upset about the Justice again. I can't.
It all comes back. Danny, lift our spirits.
I don't know if it's gonna be a spirit lifting thing, but if yours Kalio's fail, if you guys thought that was bad, someone else.
You got a better one.
I got a better one. I mean, better for us, not better for the person who made the mistake. It's Sam on Hanzo. I think he gets a kill on, was it Kai? And then he just goes up and dies.
No.
Yeah, a big fail. And then
Sam?
I remember after this, he does it again. And then he fails again. There you go. So he does
it's
it
probably a
twice
bug
on the
about the
same
game
map.
or something, you know.
But yeah, as a lower third reads, he got Kai though. So
Got Kai, yeah.
Good trade. Good trade. Worth.
In Sam's defense, these walls are very awkward to climb. If you've ever tried climbing these walls, like there's like a lot of hidden walls and a lot of hidden things that you can hit. Like, why didn't he climb there? I don't know.
Yeah, he actually
I think his slipper, his little slippers got like stuck on the little valve of the. It's just very dangerous. Then just don't climb it, you know.
Go around. Go
Just walk around, man.
You can't lose to the landscape, so he does it twice. Maybe the third time was a charm.
I'm sure.
Sam should have done it one more
was.
time, and then he would have climbed it.
Good thinking, Danny.
Environmental kill make a lot of appearances in our.
Yeah, it does.
It's been a running theme for us.
That's
Midseason Madness.
That's what it's all about. Okay, Costa, you're left. What you got for us?
Mine is fortunately not about cliffs or falling off of things into death. This is more about Finn pushing someone into death.
Sort of on the same line.
So we got the Zenyatta changes, and we haven't really seen many environmentals here. So he kicks him once, doesn't get anything. Second time, into the mine.
Oh my god, that Ryan just flew.
Hawk goes for a fly, and Finn wanted to let him know about it. So it's a very big touch the spawn kind of challenge. Some disrespect, good, solid, tight, thick teabagging right here. I respect it. This is
Oh,
Shaka, and then he punches him into the mine.
He took flight though, like that one. Whew.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice kick.
So much. I mean, he's certainly not skipping leg day, is he?
No.
Like there's a lot of raw power.
And on the
in that
back
little
of
Omnic leg.
on the back of Finn's kick, they ended up finishing the map.
It's alright. I'll give you.
I want to go home.
I want to go home. I don't like it here.
right.
Our producer loved it, so, but he's a boomer, so.
What?
Whoa! You're about to get censored. Oh my
You
god.
can't say that.
Hex, we love you.
What are you gonna do? Cut my mic? Please don't cut my mic. Mistakes were made. Anyway.
Hex is the best, okay?
Schedule.
He's a national treasure, all right?
Love schedule. Anyone
Oh
else?
my.
Schedules? Schedule.
That's like attacking the
Schedule lovers
goaltender in
chat.
hockey. It's like you don't touch the goaltender. You don't touch Hex.
That's out of bounds.
Yeah, out of bounds.
This
Defenseless.
is coming from a boomer to another boomer. And I'm allowed to say it's fine.
it's
too late, Zoe.
So,
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. I love schedules. These are fun.
Oh.
Guangzhou going up against the Valiant.
Valiant versus.
And then wait, is it the same schedule? That seems like a repeat of last
No, that was Guangzhou, Hangzhou last
Oh
time.
yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm just confused.
Yeah.
Or yeah,
Valiant
that's
versus
it.
Delirious?
And then afterwards, absolutely delirious. All right, Guangzhou Valiant, and then afterwards the Shanghai Dragons will take on the Spark. And then in the West, we get treated to the San Francisco Shock going up against the Florida Mayhem, followed by the Outlaws, who will take on the Gladiators. And our last match of the day is the Paris Eternal and the Boston Uprising. Which of these matches you guys got your eyes on?
I kind of want to see Paris versus Boston. I think both of these teams are on the up and up, but neither of them have really like broken past that. So this will be like the battle of the bottom.
You do that one, and I'll watch for Houston Gladiators.
You watch Houston. Okay, that sounds great. Can I watch that one too?
No.
Mayhem.
Only one. Only one.
Just because of proper, I just want to watch proper.
It's
True. Can we interview him again? Ask him for a friend. Not me. Could be anyone. Well, the thing is, like, we're getting very, very close to the mid-season madness. So, of course, a lot of these matches have implications when it comes to their ranks, when it comes to their points. So, I'm just excited for the next week we have in store for us, and of course, for the last matches of week number. Is it number 3 already?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Next
already.
week, yeah.
For this, wow. Wow, time
Wait,
flies
what?
when you're having
Wow.
fun, and we have lots of that, and we're gonna have so much more tomorrow. So it is time to bid you farewell. Thank you guys so much for joining. What is it?
Next week.
Week 2. The next week is week 3.
This
Did
week
I?
is week 2.
Did I made it complicated. That was me badly wording things. Don't worry. I'm sorry I confused you.
Yeah.
Reinforce. But thanks for sorting him
I
out.
got him covered, don't
You got me. That's good. Well, yeah, sorry for the confusion. And we're going to say goodbye now. Thank you guys so much for joining me once again to break down all the action and entertain the masses. And I'm going to have you all back in the truck again. When you're laughing. Going to have you all back again tomorrow. I can't wait for more action coming your way. Thank you so much for watching. And we're going to be back same time, same place. You don't want to miss it.
Why are you laughing?
I don't know.